In this tutorial, I'd like to talk about CSS links and styling the links on your website. And this is a little bit different than what might be referred to as a CSS nav bar. That is something that I will post more tutorials on and examples and links. This is kind of like the beginning of creating a navigation bar, but also it is just simply changing your link color and adding in basic rollovers or a hover for your links. So what you want to do here is open up the W3 Schools site, and we'll use that code again, and then we will apply it to some of the existing tutorial websites so you can see what happens here. So I'm on w3schools.com, click on CSS, and then click on CSS links. And you want to scroll down here until you get to the text decoration, and this is basically the code that you want to learn in this tutorial. There's not a whole lot to it, but it is pretty important because what's going to happen is as you start to apply some basic CSS layout and colors to your pages, changing the background colors, then your links are not going to look right. So what you're seeing here, this helps you change the links so that they match the page a little better and they stand out. So link is basically the color and the decoration, what it looks like when you first open up your website. That's just basically the link. Visited is what the link looks like after it has been clicked on already and you visited it. Hover is the rollover, so when you move your mouse over it, it changes the color or it underlines. And then active is what happens when your mouse is clicked down. And you don't have to have all of these. I mean, sometimes you just see the link and the hover. But if you do choose to include all of them, they need to be in this order just for the browser to interpret it correctly. So you do have to put it in that order. So the sites that I have open here that we build in these tutorials here, let's just take the basic one right here. So let's say that if you have a basic website and you're struggling with your link color, maybe you change the background color and it doesn't look quite like you want it to. So let me open that up here. So background color, let me just change this to black. We'll use hexadecimal colors here and we'll save that and refresh it. Alright, so this is what I typically see when I'm looking at beginning projects. Is a lot of people will use a black background, which I don't recommend for usability and readability. It's kind of hard on the eyes, but if you do want to use a dark color background, certainly there are times when you would do that, but then the links don't look good on top of that. So let's put in the code to change that. So let's go here and we're going to use all 4 of these, and we're just going to highlight and copy. And then over here, since we're not using an attached style sheet in this particular file, we would just put it up in the head and the style tag of the document. But if you did have the attached style sheet, that's where it would go. So I'll look at that in just a second here. So let me just put it up here in the style tag. I'll put it down before the style tag closes right here. Alright, so I've got the link visited, hover, and active, and it does have a text decoration on this of none. And we want to add one thing on here just so we can see if it's working. Let's add color, and we'll use hexadecimal white, which is all F's, just like that. So underneath the link, we added in a rule for the color to make it white. So we'll do file save, and let's see if that stands out a little bit better. And there you can see right just like that. Okay, and we took off the underline with text decoration none, and that's common to do. If you want, it's pretty easy to tell that this is a menu because it's up here in a nav bar. So what a lot of people do is they'll just take off that decoration, take off the underline, but then put it back on the hover. So you can see with the hover, text decoration, underline, and that's all it is. So I'm not really going to change anything else with that. I think you can kind of see where I'm going with it. So you can add in whatever you want. You could add in text decoration or color or even boxes, as you probably saw on the last tutorial with the CSS layout. That's what I'll show you here in a second. So that is link visited, hover, active, adding in that style to your page. Now the other one that you are probably aware of now is if you look at this particular site, this little basic CSS layout site, that looks more like a navigation bar, and this is accomplished in much the same way. by putting in the CSS rules on the actual links here. So let's examine that so you can see what's happening. So let me open up the HTML for the CSS layout. Note that we put the styles in a .css file for this one, so you're not going to find the actual link style in the HTML. You've got to go to the styles.css. And now if you look through this, you'll see, look for A and hover. So this is a little bit different. Instead of just having the link visited, hover, and active, what it has is a class called a top nav, and that is how they style that particular area of the screen. So they use the block and padding and a background color, and then they add the A tag. Okay, and then for the hover, they change the background. So that is how this changes right here. So for what they've done here, they only have the two. They have the A, and actually this could say link, just like that. Okay, and then you could change the color. So let's say we'll change this to white so we can see if it works. And let's also change the padding of this just a little bit. Okay, over here and refresh. So notice how the nav bar changed a little bit. Basically the text color just changed to white right here. If I want to make sure that this is working, let me just change this to maybe black. All zeros, save and refresh, and so you can see that that is now working. Wouldn't make much sense. We'll change it back here. Alright, and then the other thing that you look at here is the hover. So this is the rollover, and all they did here was to change the background color. For the rollover here, this is hover, and then also the color text changed to black as well. So if you wanted to experiment with this a little bit, let's change this as well. And then for the background color here, let's put that in as black. Do a file save. Alright, and you can see now the rollover, it's a little too subtle, you can't see it very well, but it's black with the white text as well for that. Okay, now if we want to switch those, you might see them a little bit better here. So let's switch this right here. Alright, save that, refresh. There you go. So it's white with the black text. So hopefully you get the idea here as far as styling your links. Now this is a little more advanced here, and I'll show you where it is on the W3 Schools as far as adding in, the basic button. And then with this particular example here, don't forget that the way that they are creating this navigation bar, the look of this, so it extends across the page, that's done with a division tag that has this top nav assigned to it, and then they have the overflow on, and then the background color. So if I did want to change that background color here, let me just add in some other numbers and see what that looks like. So I'll save it and refresh it. You can see now it's a blue color. So that's how they change that, and that's done with this top nav. But everything I showed you here with the link and the hover, that's just your basic CSS style to create that. The padding is kind of what creates the size of it, and then the block as well, and the colors. That's how you get this sort of button look if you like that. You could also go with a simpler look like I showed you on the last one. So last thing that I'll mention here, back to the CSS on W3 Schools, if you scroll down to the bottom, you'll find advanced and link buttons, and that is where you'll see the code kind of like what I just mentioned right here. So if you wanted to experiment with this code, you could take this and copy it and put it into your example here. Let me bring this one back right here. So instead of this code, let me put in the one that they use for buttons, and I'll click File, Save, come back over and check it, and then it puts this kind of funny looking menu in there, but that's the code that creates it here. So then if you change things around, let's say we want to change it to 10 here, make something really drastic so we can see it working. For the padding, now you can see the size getting a lot smaller. So that is basically how you begin to apply CSS styles to affect the links of your page, and then you can start to determine whether you want to change your links on every single page or just on individual HTML pages. Now usually you'll probably change on every page at the same time, in which case I would recommend putting it in a .css file like this, and then it's going to change on every HTML page that uses that. But then there are times where you may want to go back and change it in the HTML code itself, and that would be more like this example here where I put it up in the style tag on the actual HTML file. So let me know if you have any questions on this. This is the tutorial on styling your links with CSS.